Hello, welcome, and how's it, everybody? Thank you so much for joining in. For those on the other side of the screen, this is the Led by Her Tech for Good webinar. Just to give everybody a little bit of context before we dive into introducing this panel that we have today, an exceptional panel. Led by Her is the woman-led arm of the Lecker Network. It's designed to bring practical support to women in business as well as women in leadership around five particular pillars. It's increasing access, improving global positioning, capital readiness, economic traction, and the journeys walked by women. Today, we are bringing you access to some knowledge and insight from the ladies that are building exceptional things for good by using tech. So without any further ado, I am going to ask our panel to please just introduce themselves, who they are, where they're based, and what it is they are building. I'm going to start off with Sam, who is wearing the vibe code in today's conversation. Sam, please do introduce yourself.
Thank you and welcome everyone. I'm Samantha Henrik. I'm the founder of DataSync and I'm an AI consultant and I'm building awareness in the AI space and adoption in businesses. And I'm super passionate about bringing this to the women in this space.
Thanks, Sam. Those sun rays on your face look real good. I'm then moving on to Kayang. Kayang, in fact, is the lady that has brought it all together. The conversation that we're having here today, the panel that we have around the screen. So today's webinar is led by Kayang. Kayang, good to have you.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Kayang Gagiano. I am the Chief Partnerships Officer at an EdTech organization called the Reach Trust. We are also a public benefit organization and a non-profit. So we work in the social impact space. And what we are building, because I don't do any of it alone, is networks for change to move the needle in South African education. We have a focus on early childhood development as well as youth employment.
Thank you, Kayang. And as I mentioned, Led by Her is led by the woman of the Lecker Network, but today we have a guest on our platform, and that is Melissa. Melissa, it's so great to have you with us today, and welcome.
Thank you so much, Sharell, and I'm a big fan of the Lecker Network. I've been to a few of your events, so I'm very honored and grateful to be here today. I'm Melissa Staymaker. I have multiple hats, as many of us do. But mainly I work for Women in Tech, which is a global non-for-profit, as the partnerships director, supporting more women in STEM, specifically creating many tech for good applications. And I'm also the COO of another edtech company, but it's an AI tutor. It's called Hello Ada, and that's really also another tech for good organization, just spreading the love and helping other women in our network to get access to networks, funding, opportunities, collaborations, and more. So really glad to be here today, and I'm excited to hear from the panel.
Fantastic. Thank you, Melissa. And like most women wearing many hats, great to have you part of the discussion. And then we are moving to Lee. Lee has a great eye for UX and design. Lee, please do introduce yourself.
Thanks so much, Sharell. So hi, everyone. My name is Lee Stefanski. I am the Managing Director at Now Boarding Digital. We specialize in UX and UI design in pretty high stakes environments. So we work a lot in the fintech, medtech, prop tech, and obviously in the for good space as well. We are known to be the people in the room who represent the user. So yeah, that's really why I'm here, always wearing the user-centric human hat in the room.
Incredible. And again, to those that are joining us from the other side of the screen, please be part of the conversation. Pop in your questions, pop in your comments, and I will be directing it to the panel. So if you do have a burning question, pop it through and then we'll definitely address it. All right, ladies, let's get into it. All right, I'm going to start with the vibe code, which is Samantha. Samantha, we actually had a luxury, right? We have so many AI tools that we get to choose from, but almost like at the point where it's opportunity fatigue, right? Where there's so many to choose from, what do we choose, and how do we really move away from getting resistant from using tech because we don't know what to choose, right? So my question to you, Sam, if you can just share with the audience is, what are the best use of AI tools, both in coding and in business at large?
Okay, great. So I'm just going to break it up into three small sections. So in coding, there's a bunch of tools out there, but my advice around that is to pick one and really like get comfortable with it. I think things are changing so quickly. Right now at large, Claude Code is one of the tops, Cursor's been around and so on. In the vibe coding space, that's where you actually get to vibe code, where you can prompt to build something. But that is more in the prototyping space. So I really encourage people to go play and prototype and at least be able to envision what they're building and be able to take it further. And then in the actual business at large space, what I'm finding, it's less about the tools. And actually last year was a like tool fatigue, as you said. And this year it's coming back to like, have I built the foundations? How do I become less resistant? So the less resistance is getting AI fluency, which means, do I understand what I'm doing? Do I understand the context as it has? And has it got access to my data to give me non-generic outputs?
Mm. Just a quick one. Do you have any favorite AI tools that you're using?
Yeah,
What are
well,
your top three?
Claude's my favorite. Whisperflow and Granola. That's kind of my workflow. So Whisperflow is I can talk, so you talk into it, and then Claude, and then Granola records. So
Are they paying you for this promotion, Samantha? And then just one last question before I move on to the next one, Samantha. Where is the hype outrunning reality?
yeah. I think we have hype fatigue. I'm sorry for using that word again. It's brought a lot of fatigue from AI, but we've had it over the last 2 years. Like last year was so overwhelming. There was like 1,000 tools being released every month almost. And this year, I think we've become a bit immune to the hype. We kind of all know AI is here to stay, and we're coming to ground it now. We're like, okay, how do we embed this into our businesses? So I think it's becoming, even when new tools come out, I think a lot of us are more resistant. We're like, I almost wait a couple of weeks because I know a release is going to come out in one of the bigger LLMs like Claude or ChatGPT. And I'm like, they're going to have that feature soon. Don't waste your money on paying a nice license for another tool. Or I go build it myself. So it's that easy now.
Must be nice. Wonderful. Thanks, Sam. Melissa, I'm going to move to you. We know that the tech space has been male dominated for decades now, right? But that has definitely changed. I want to ask you, what has been working that has gotten capital in the hands of female tech founders?
Well, I would say when you say it has been working, it's been working painfully slowly. I mean, if we look at statistics from the likes of UNESCO and the World Economic Forum, when you like we've gone from 3% funding to 12% funding. So we're moving in the right direction, but it's still very painfully slow. And definitely there are some things that are working and some things that need to change. So staying on the positive side of the story, things that are working is people are really realizing what is needed when interacting with markets is in ecosystems. And I think it's the importance of personal branding. And I've seen a lot of people being more aware of how people buy from people. So having your face be your product and not necessarily your product. But it is being vulnerable, being out there, putting the social media posts out, not being thinking, oh, people are going to judge me, but getting over that fear of being judged and just going for it. And people are being bolder in terms of asking for money. And why I say that is a lot of people will go to these pitching competitions, and I've seen this so many times where they do a beautiful pitch and they don't ask for the money. They don't do the close. They don't do the, put it out there and be bold and be brave and ask for the big bucks, right? So, and I think that's slowly changing because people are becoming more aware that, it's a fear of failure, right? But becoming more aware of having to ask that, for that money and ask for the close. And I think what has also changed is I've seen a lot of more networking come up. So Lacquer networks, you've got in Cape Town, if you're here, we've got World Green Walks, we've got Founders Factory, we've got all these beautiful networks that support founders, supports entrepreneurs. And I think it's being in these spaces where I've seen positive changes. So people actually getting out of the comfort zone, going to these meetups, going to the Women in Tech events, going to all these things, and actually being noticed. And where we've seen the best, collaborations is these in-person events. So I think people are a bit tired of online things. I know we're doing online here, but it really is important to do both. Don't just stay online. You want to be out there meeting people in person, and building relationships. So I think those are the things that are getting better. And I think if you focus on mindset changes, when you compare startup, men and women, doesn't matter, what gender, but if you look at the startup community in the US, in Silicon Valley, in those spaces, compared to the rest of the world, they are really not scared of failing. But I think, you think they have more maybe capital or more opportunities, but they almost, if you go to an investment or VC company and you ask for funding, first thing they'll ask is, have you failed? And if you say, oh, no, I've never failed, it's a no, because they want to see that you've been through the pain and the struggles, and they want to know that you've learned and it's almost, failure is almost like a positive thing. So the mindset change is very different from the first world countries in some areas than we find in some other countries where, you think, if I don't make it, I'm not going to eat, my family's not going to have food on the table. So there is a lot of differences, but it's changing, but so slowly. And I think we can do a lot more. But yeah, I'll leave it at that for now.
Thanks, Melissa. You mentioned quite a useful tip, right? The evidence to show that you have failed, that's not a response that a lot of people share. And that's a great tip to give anybody, because a lot of not just women, but everybody, we want to pitch perfectly, and we want to feel like we have everything in place, not knowing that actually the secret is showing what lessons you have learned from it. And just you mentioned a few other very important points, right? You mentioned women don't mention their price. And one of the pillars within Led by Her is economic traction. And the reason why we have put that pillar in place is because we notice that women do, in fact, network differently. They price their services way lower than they meant to do it, and they're a little bit shy to mention what their price is. So it's interesting to see that it's also happening within the tech space specifically, especially at pitching events. Thank you so much for that insight. I'm going to now move to the good code. Kiang, if you can please come through. You're doing some incredible work within communities, and I just want to ask you, how is your work in tech creating access to many education resources of South Africans that don't really have access to tech?
Thanks, Sharell. So I think the short answer is, what's the platform that you're using? And then what is the content that you are putting onto that platform? So the work we do with the Reach Trust, that starts with our trusty extension of our hands and arms, the mobile phone. So we harness mobile technology. The reason being, the majority of South Africa's population, in fact, own mobile phones. They are obviously highly aspirational items. And luckily, a lot of these are low-cost smartphones with internet connectivity. So we're not talking about everyone, but we are talking about a relatively high percentage of the local population, mostly in urban and peri-urban environments, but even in rural environments. So while this doesn't solve the data challenge, you then have to look at what are your low data options. So historically, when we first started over 10 years ago, we were looking at zero-rated Mobi apps where they worked offline, they didn't require data. But in 2026, with stats suggesting that up to 80% of South African households have someone on WhatsApp, we've really moved in that direction, and that is the platform that we are leveraging. So then it comes to what kind of content are you putting onto WhatsApp? And generally, we're using bots. And we're trying to create access to high quality educational resources, right? So we have to look at the gaps that we're filling in. But we also need to understand that the content has to be accessible, not only in terms of like digital access through WhatsApp, but the actual content also needs to be easy to understand, to follow along with. People have to be incentivized and empowered to continue and engaging and learning with the content that we're putting out there. So I don't know how many people on this call know this, but only 8.7% of South Africans actually speak English in their homes. isiZulu is actually our most widely spoken household language, 24%, followed by isiXhosa at 16. But so if we're talking about access, the next layer of access that we're looking at here, and that's where AI plugins are becoming so useful, is that we want multilingual, highly visual and audio-based content. You want to be using plain language, you want to include pictures and icons, elements of gamified learning, you want to minimize text, keep sentences short, and then provide mother tongue audio wherever possible for low literate audiences.
Awesome, Kayang. Can you just give a little bit more clarity in terms of like the type of content that you put on the platforms?
Yes, absolutely, of course. In terms of specificity, I'll just give you one use case, which is we have like two focal areas at the Reach Trust, as I mentioned. So we're looking at youth employment pathways, and then we have this other focus on early childhood development. In the early childhood development space, we have a hybrid model. We have an early learning program, which is called Finding Tabo. So what we're doing is through implementation partners, we are deploying physical resources in the form of a language agnostic picture book. So they don't have any text, they're just pictures into homes and into schools. And then we have the WhatsApp bot, which supports the learning journey, not for the child. The child is screen free. That's very important. Young children under 5, we should really be keeping off digital devices as much as we can. But the WhatsApp technology is there to support the caregiver. So they scan a QR code, or they just join the WhatsApp bot by putting the number into their phone. And then we have a pathway with menus that leads them down a specific learning journey. Finding Tabo pictures, there are 10 of them, and everything is themed. And at the moment, most of our content is still in English. But say after this call, I would have a conversation with Melissa and be like, what are you guys doing it? How are you doing it? What platforms are you using to translate your content? And that's really where the work lies, is now not only digitization, but multilingualism. I hope that helps.
Yes, that does. Thank you so much. I was trying to figure out how do people access the content? So you're working through schools, and then also what type of content that you do host. Thank you for that. Kayang, over to the human code, Lee. Lee, you've been doing some AI work in medical devices, right? Can you share with us some of the tech for good that you've been doing with maybe a client?
Definitely, Sharell. So we work with an amazing medtech company called AI Diagnostics. So they have a digital stethoscope that they combine with AI to improve the speed and accuracy of tuberculosis screening. So, I mean, like, let that sink in for a second. Anybody living in the South African context will understand how big this problem is. And the team really has set out to improve that first point, which is that screening moment, which is the decider between sending people back into their communities, potentially positive with TB, or sending them on for further testing. So in terms of the work that we have been doing with them, it's been absolutely fascinating. Let me sketch a picture for you. So you've got a nurse who is potentially sitting in front of an incredibly ill or potentially emotional or very frightened patient. She's got a digital stethoscope in one hand and the companion app that she is busy navigating with her other hand. Now, in this moment, there's a lot going on. There's the patient, there's the stethoscope, and there's the app. Our role was to make this app so excruciatingly simple for her to navigate with all of these things going on that she does not need to think about that technology. Her focus and her attention needs to be on the patient, which is really what's important in that entire scenario. So that's just one example of some of the work that we are incredibly privileged to be part of.
That's very fascinating. Using AI in medical devices in general, right? Where the world's going with that and how precise we get to get information for the illnesses that we are experiencing as humans. Thank you for that, Lee. Just maybe one more question. You've also worked on a solution that reduces food waste.
Have, yes, absolutely. I mean, we actually spoke to them this afternoon. So still good. They have built a platform that solves two problems in one. So instead of this extreme amount of food waste that is coming out of retailers because of near expiry goods or just surplus food, they are giving the retailers the ability to create value mystery bags that they can then sell to consumers at very, very discounted pricing. I think it's up to 65% off groceries. So they are really solving both the waste problem as well as the access to fresh food that is still good to be eaten. And they've basically built a platform that the retailers can load how many bags they've got available in the moment when they're available. Some of the main challenge that they were grappling with from a UX perspective was that because these bags are so time limited, but also scarce in terms of their availability, when they're gone, consumers were logging onto their platform, not really understanding what was going on, because often it was just there was nothing available. They would think it was broken and they were seeing big drop off. So our big kind of part of that project was around improving both the UI of the platform to really improve engagement and trust. So it needed a lot of enhancement. But there was a big education job to be done through visual design to explain and manage customer expectations and to make it very intuitive around what the next steps were going to be and how this works. So yeah, was also just an amazing client.
You know, Lee, I'm sure majority of us, both on this call and in the audience, have multiple times come across either an app or a tech system platform that we're using, and just because the look and feel, the design, and the way that the buttons flow with each other don't work right. And that's probably one of the most pivotal points of whether a software works or doesn't work, whether it's an app or a software. If you get your design wrong, you could either fail or succeed, right? We have Kayang that has her hand up. Thank you, Lee.
I just wanted to respond to what Lee was saying in terms of creating a very specific context, like a user context, and how important that is. And I just wanted to respond to what Lee was saying with how simplicity and we also use elements of fun is a really, really way to stop people from feeling intimidated, because tech can be so intimidating. And if we really want to get people to adopt tech, we need to be creating, up to Lee's point, really using user-centered design. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. I totally agree with what you're doing, and I think it's amazing.
Fantastic. Samantha, oh yes, Melissa, let's move to you before I go to some few.
I just wanted to also just chime in there with what Kayang said, and I think we definitely need to have a meeting offline, Kayang, me and you, because there's so much collaborative opportunities I'm already seeing just from our conversation. Is that because you are reaching like the early learning learners and also the kind of job seekers afterwards, and where Hello Ada can come in is filling in that gap from grade 1 to grade 12 with our Hello Ada platform, which is basically it's an AI tutor for all languages. So you mentioned about having access to quality education, curriculum focused, and in their mother tongue. So I think everyone is doing such amazing work, but I just wanted to mention that, you know, there's definitely already just from this call. So this is why it's so important to have these meetings, ways of collaborating that I can see happening, hopefully. So But yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Going to some of the questions, we'll take one from Paul K. Roberts. Hey, Paul. This is directed at Samantha. Paul says that we are pro-woman family, but AI is overwhelming, which is much like what I mentioned in the beginning, right? It really can be overwhelming as much as it's useful. And then he continues to say, especially for kids. If my kids want to get ahead and learn now, where should they start, or should they just be kids for now? Taylor is 10 and Morgan is 13.
Yeah, good question. So I always come back to balance. I think everything is a balance in life. We need to let us enjoy the journey we're on. So being kids is important. I think a big thing coming out of the AI space right now is what skills are going to be relevant in a couple of years' time. And I think our biggest gift as being humans is our critical thinking. So I would enhance them to go follow their passion, do things that allows that creative juices, critical thinking, judgment, that side of things that you wouldn't get from AI necessarily. And then obviously there is the other side of AI and learning how to engage with it in a responsible way, especially teaching kids how to ethically use it and not just give away information, not just get lost and maybe tricked on it. So there are some platforms out there. I'm sure they can be also recommended from the other panelists on platforms for kids. But yeah, also always with a parental guidance is important.
Awesome. Paul, I hope that helps you. Great question though, especially for kids, right? If us as adults are feeling a little bit overwhelmed with what we have at our disposal, I can't even imagine what kids are experiencing. Bringing you back, Melissa. Earlier on, I had asked you what is working right to get funding into women tech founders when it comes to capital. But what have you noticed some of the things that maybe women are doing wrong?
Okay, so I think basically not just being the opposite of what I just said. So don't feel like it's like this whole imposter syndrome thing, right? So don't feel it's a fear of failure. And it's almost saying, I think the mindset shift needs to change. And that only comes with doing it through practice. Because if you are learning to drive a car or ride a bike, you're going to maybe fall down a few times or crash, hopefully not, but you won't, it's going to be stressful. It's going to be hard. No one gets it right the first time. So I think people expect to be successful. They're just going to have, they're going to be the unicorn. They're going to find a solution to a problem and it's just going to go scalable and viable and it's brilliant, done. And that's just simply not the case. So I saw a YouTube video once of a guy jumping on a trampoline. He was almost like a gymnast, but he was like jumping on steps and then falling down, and then jumping on a second step and then falling down, and then going higher and falling down. And that image comes to mind when I think of startups, because you get one jump to the first step and you think, great, I've made it, and then inevitably something will be an obstacle on the road, and it's not easy. I think anyone that wants to be a startup founder or entrepreneur is really in for a journey, and it's not a quick fix. You're not going to make your $1 million company or whatever it is overnight. I'm saying that with also having built startups myself and having failed before and have been successful and it failed again, and it's just like this journey, right? But it's really all around what you learn and then bringing people along with you on the journey. Another thing is not to try and do it all by yourself, because being a founder on your own, you have to wear all the hats, marketing, CFO, CIO, CEO, all the things in one person is almost impossible. Yes, you can outsource things, and yes, there's AI and you can create agents. So there might be some more one-person millionaires, being created with the help of AI. But I would still say, create a network. So people call it like your board of directors, even if it's just people that you reach out to for mentorship or reach out to for advice or go for, just sense check or brainstorm. You cannot do it alone. So if you think you're going to be on this journey completely by your own, then you're setting yourself up for failure. It's not always what you know, it's who you know. LinkedIn is also a great resource. So I've met a lot of my business partners and my, sponsors and people that are, has helped me on my journey through LinkedIn. And you need to make sure that you put yourself out there, get a bit comfortable with being uncomfortable, as they say. So, you got to just decide another sort of good tip I watched. I love Stephen Bartlett, so I always watch his podcast. And another one was on there recently was you can either be the person that you want to be, or be the person that you think other people want you to be, and worry about their judgments and their views. But what does it matter? Just, if you're going to be a little bit uncomfortable, if you're going to be, putting your face out there for, marketing and advert campaign, or just, you you kind of have to just do it because, as I said, people want to know that you are trusted, that you are human, that you are someone that they can relate to, and they can relate to people that aren't 100% perfect, right? So you're going to just, again, go on a journey, but bring people along with you and don't do it alone. So I hope that answers some of your questions. I mean, there's a lot of things I can share, but with limited time, so I'll keep it to that for now.
Well, we have time, don't worry. Thank you for that, Melissa. And then Veronica Palmer has asked a question. So anybody around the panel, if you feel you want to answer it, please just raise your hand. How are you handling the AI hallucinations? Oh, Sam.
I'm jumping in here again. So it's a real thing. I get it. I think it's gotten a lot better over the last 6 months, and it's just getting better and better. Two factors to think about. First of all, you need to make sure you're not on a free version. You're going to get one of their lower ranked models if you're using AI in a free version. So look at getting a paid model, first of all. And second of all, is AI is only as good as the context and information you give it. So it's going to push out. It's going to tell you what you want to hear unless you push back on it and give it proper context to reference and have almost a template of how you want it to look, feel, and come out. So when you give more, it's less likely it's going to hallucinate.
Thank you for that. Prompting is very important. Then I guess, Melissa, back to what you were just mentioning before, but Elizabeth has said imposter syndrome for women in tech is so real. What would you do differently if you weren't managing how you were perceived? Anybody can answer this. What would you do differently if you weren't managing how you were perceived?
So I think, again, it comes down to practice. And like I said, if you're driving a car, right, you're not going to do it perfect the first time. So just doing it over and over and repeating and practicing and getting better at your craft will reduce imposter syndrome. Because at the end of the day, all what imposter syndrome is really being out of your comfort zone. And we talk a lot about this in our Women in Tech workshops, about going and moving into your growth zone and being able to overcome fears. But essentially, what I would like to say is, if you feel like you have imposter syndrome, that nervousness, that sweating, and you're like, oh, all that is it just means that you are doing something new. So celebrate it. Don't feel like, oh my goodness, I'm not equipped, I'm not going to be able to do it. And it's all this like negative talk that you have in your own brain. Everyone, male, women, female, male, doesn't matter who you are, everyone has had this feeling because you've been in somewhere, a new job or a new company or a new role, or you've tried something new, or you're doing public speaking for the first time. Doesn't matter, if you do anything for the first time, you will get those nerves and you'll think, gosh, are they going to see through me that I'm just like faking it till I make it, But it really is almost to say, celebrate those moments, because then I am growing. I'm not sat on my laurels. I'm not in my comfort zone. I'm doing something new. And see it as a positive. But to overcome those feelings is just prepare, research, make sure, if you've got that board meeting coming up, you're meeting that VC, that you are as prepared as you can be, because that will make sure that those, nervousness will a little bit calm down, and practice in front of the mirror, in front of your friends. So if you've had a few trials, like driving the car, you have a few practice sessions before you do the real thing, and that will definitely help put you on a good set. But like I said, for me, imposter syndrome is a good thing because it means you're growing. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always say that if you feel really nervous about something, it means something to you. It means it's important to you. So enjoy those nerves as much as they are uncomfortable. Lee, you have your hand up. You on
Lee, you're on mute.
Thank you, guys. I'll keep mine very brief. So a tip, a trick that I use that is not going to be relevant in every context, but I counter imposter syndrome with curiosity. At this point in my life and my career, I think maybe I've come to terms with the fact that I don't know everything, and that's okay. And when I don't, I've got some great questions, right? Because I want to learn. So that might help.
Beautifully
I
put.
actually,
That definitely
sorry,
helps.
Sharell. I
Karen,
actually
yes.
wanted to respond to that as well in terms of what Lee is saying. For example, we're talking about women in tech. I'm not a technologist, right?
Mhm.
I work for an edtech organization, but I am not a technologist. I work alongside technologists and software developers and software engineers. But what I'm trying to do is go out there, get the research, figure out the needs, and then go to my technologists and say, how do we make the tech help us to solve this problem? And um, Melissa said, do your research, be prepared, ask questions, be curious, learn. And it's okay to say, I don't really understand this. Tell me like I'm five, because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to create tech that a 5-year-old can understand. So our tech team can make us understand it, then our user will understand it.
So passionately answered. Thank you for that. Lee, founders often think that design should only come in once a product works, right? My question is, what's the difference between a product that people use and one that they actually want to use?
Sharell, you touched on this earlier, actually. So just because they can use it doesn't mean that they will use it. You know, the old adage around build it and they will come is not relevant, and it does not work that way. So a great experience design is made up of kind of three core fundamentals for me. The first is meaning, the second is simplicity, and the third is feeling. So if we kind of just zoom into meaning for a minute, how often do we hear about people that are building something because they had a great idea? The big question is, has it been validated with the people that you believe are going to be your users? Do they have a real problem? Do they have the problem that you think they have? And are there enough of them having this same problem to actually build a business case around? No amount of great design can fix a product that isn't meaningful. So that's the first kind of, big stopping point for us. The second point is around simplicity. So I think, this has been touched on, but how do we remove as much friction as we possibly can so that the user can focus on one thing at a time and getting that job done as efficiently and simply as possible? And then we get to feeling. And this is the part that, this is my girl dog that has come to say hello because it's that time of the day. But feeling is really around, how do we get your product to connect with users on an emotive level? And that comes down to, maybe that's the layer that founders think of as the decoration, but that's actually the part that really makes people engage in the experience, thoroughly enjoy the experience. It makes it memorable. It makes them connect with your brand on an emotionally resonant level. And hopefully it's the part that makes them tell their friends and family about it. So ultimately, great experience design is the thing that hopefully makes people want to use your app, but it is a very layered thought and design process that builds on each other, that actually enables designing and building the product for the people that you're building it for.
As you were mentioning the first two layers, in my mind, I was like, it's all about connection, how you connect with, and then you came through with the third pillar. But all in all, it is about how you connect with the user and create that emotive experience, like you mentioned.
Absolutely. But
Sam,
Sorry.
Go through. No, please continue.
It's about the human, right? It's
You're
about the
right.
human, and every design decision coming back, you're going to have in any product team, you're going to have these competing forces. You're going to have business wanting to make revenue. You're going to have technology wanting to obviously build a sound product, but they're going to be coming from it from a very technical perspective. You're going to have data that has their own perspective on things. And then you're going to have design. And all of these parties need to pull together around serving the user so that everybody can achieve success in their individual or with their individual priorities.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, Lee. Sam, you were speaking to us about a few AI tools that are the best to use, but what has been the hardest tech thing? What has been the hardest thing that tech has thrown at you, and what nearly made you quit?
Yeah. Well, I think generally with tech, the hardest thing it throws is it's a constant change. It's the only thing, well, it's not the only, there's many things that change in life, but it's going to consistently change. You're never going to get a piece of tech and then you learn it once and that's it forever. So I think you need to have a open mindset when coming to tech. And I think a lot of times it's been forgotten that tech was built for humans to use it. So, you have to, like Lee touched on it, and, it got to come back to how are you going to get the human to engage with it? Because without a human using it, you're not really going to get results. We're seeing that right now with AI. If you haven't configured it, if you're not prompting it, if you're not giving it context, an agent runs, but somebody had to build that agent at one point, or have an idea to build it. So I think, being open to change and being accepting that you're going to be a forever learner in this space.
And your particular example of maybe was there an example that ever made you quit, or a tech
Well,
solution that you had to use and you gave up on it and chose something different?
I think also the tech space is very iterative. So like if you're doing it properly, you don't do big bang sort of building, or you do have projects. I did have a failed project where I was brought in to help a company. They had spent like $5 million on rolling out a big enterprise solution in the agriculture space, and they just couldn't get it to work. And they had to pull the plug, and we had to pivot and choose another solution. But again, it works pretty similar across the whole tech space. If you don't do the groundwork, if you don't do the foundational stuff, you're going to get ahead of yourself. You're going to miss the important parts. And then, a big component of it is if you don't train people to adopt it, you're going to have resistance. Because at the end of the day, who uses the tech? It's us humans. So I always advocate for lots of training, lots of budget around the fluency side, and a lot of people, and it's exactly what was said, like businesses want to make money, they don't want to they're already spending so much money on the technology. So they often cut on the training and just expect everybody to, walk in and know how everything works. So that's, a big part of my drive is, really bringing the right people into the conversation, because I can prove by having more human trained and human involvement with the tech, you'll get a better result in the company in any case.
Fantastic. What a massive loss that example was.
Shame.
Samantha, you spoke about women need to just do it, right? They just need to go out and just do it, get comfortable with it, be comfortable with being uncomfortable. But can you share a moment that you perhaps got it wrong, or a belief about your industry you've had to unlearn?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you a crazy stat. So right now in the AI space, only 40% of women are adopting it. And one of the reasons is it's because we believe we're cheating while using AI. So it's quite a funny stat. And just to come back to your question, I think it's important that you do need to go out there and be open for it. And I think for me, it's key to growing and like being open to not being afraid of trying stuff. And I think Melissa spoke to it earlier, like we do often shun down, or the tech space has been more male dominated. I think it is shifting, and I think we are starting to get invited to we're putting ourselves in the conversation, not even needing to be invited. And I think there's an amazing technology being developed by women out there, because it's coming in from a different energy. that nurturing, the medical side, other elements. So yeah.
Thanks, Sam. Melissa, can you come in there? A moment that maybe you would have gotten it wrong, or a belief about your own industry that you've had to unlearn?
I thought, as many people, that you have a set journey, like you have a school career, and then you go to university, and then you hopefully get a degree of some sort, and then you go out in the job markets and you start at the bottom and you work your way for 10 years in a company and you be successful one day when you make partner or whatever. That's no longer the case at all. First of all, I might get shot for saying this, but you don't need a degree anymore to be successful, right? You can self-train. So many people have self-taught, as developers, whether you're, doing design work or coding or whatever it is, you can watch YouTube channels. But there's also companies like now we're working with Microsoft where they have programs like Elevate Her, where it's an AI certified by Microsoft training course for free. Absolutely free, that you can join, that you can get certified. Same with AWS, we're working with them as well. There's so many companies that have, even NVIDIA, even Claude, even Notion, all of these companies have got academies associated to them where you can go, and rather than watching Netflix, you can go and watch a YouTube video and upskill yourself in matter of minutes or hours. So it's no longer the case of that the path to success is sort of put out there. It really is for anyone to take the opportunity to grab hold of it. And another thing that I feel has been I want to kind of demystify is that you do not need funding to get started. You don't have to wait for that venture capital angel investor to come and say, here's R1 million, now go and build something. No, you have to just start small, start with what you have available. There are so many free resources available now that you can use. Even all the LLM models do have a free version. Yes, they're not as good as the paid for versions, but pick one and go with it, like Samantha said. But you don't what I do is I have a lot of free like subscriptions, and I'll do prompting on one, and then I'll get the prompt to use less tokens on the one I'm actually paying for. So you can work around all the things. But I think it is just, don't think you're going to be successful from day one. It is a journey, it is hard work, but start small. Use the resources that you have available, use the people in your network that you have available. You don't have to start a company and then think, okay, now I've got to pay myself a salary of this amount, and it's not going to work. If you are working, I'd say rather do it as a side hustle, evenings, weekends, until you see there's a little bit of traction and you've got some income, sustainable income coming in before going full time. If you have family to support, etc. I know there's a lot of issues always that we have to consider, but I think really it's not as difficult anymore. The barrier to entry for founders is so much lower. I think it costs 880 Rand in South Africa to register a business. So whether you're employed or not employed, whether you are a student or whatever you're doing, go and register. I think you have to be 18, but go and register a company because another thing is, women don't value their own time. So this is, compared to males, they will invoice you for my hour, like lawyers do. They're like, okay, well, I've done a consulting hour. Here's my invoice. I get so much an hour. This is my company, and value your time. And it doesn't matter, obviously, if you're employed, make sure you declare with your company that you have a side hustle, it's not compete and all those other things that go along with that. But have a option to get paid. Have a company that is there, that if you need to send an invoice, you send an invoice, because we need to be, again, it's the barrier of entry of creating a company is lowered. The barrier of access is lowered. So we can now have gone LinkedIn and connect with people that you couldn't before. The barrier of it, like AI is now made it so much easier for us to even get business ideas. You can literally put in a prompt on ChatGPT and say, I want to make X amount of money this per month. This is my niche. This is what I enjoy. This is my passion. This is what I'm good at. What is already the resources I have available. Help me create some ideas of what I can do. Like, you don't even have to sort of, come up with it yourself. You can get ideas. And I think now it's just such an exciting time to be an entrepreneur and to be in the world of business, because there's so many options available. but it doesn't just fall on your lap. Even though everything's there, it's free, it's available, it's access, you still have to go and spend the time, train yourself, do the things, follow the steps. And it's that building that momentum and following through that I think people, they get demotivated because they think it's too difficult. But actually, you just need to spend a few hours a week even, and go and learn something new and play around with AI, and you'll be surprised. Yeah.
Thanks, Melissa. Thanks for that. Yes, access is definitely more available than it was before, and free resources in order to get you further. I just want to bring in a question, and I'm not going to read the entire context of the question from Eugenie or Eugene. Apologies if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly, but this is to the panel. My question is, should AI implementation be treated as a change management process rather than just introducing a new tool or giving employees a few use cases?
So I know I've just spoken, but
Yeah.
I'd love to have a go.
Oh.
Oh, go ahead.
No. Bring Samantha in, if you don't mind.
Sorry, go ahead. Yes.
Sure.
So yes, I fully agree on that. And actually, the clients that I'm working with across the board, different industries, are all the ones that are successfully adopting AI are very much acknowledging that, and that's very much falls into the fluency, the change management. And I actually just recently co-authored a book, and I wrote around changing, looking at your organizational structure, because it goes to that level in the business. It's not just on are we adding a tool? AI is different. It's one of the technologies that are going to revolutionize the way we do business. And businesses were built for 100% humans to do the work. And now we're bringing in agents and other things that need to report to humans and do and so forth. So definitely change management, but also looking at how does your organizational structure and all of those components fit into it, and who's responsible for the AI agents within your team, are they performing, and so forth. So 100% agree, change management is key for successful adoption.
Fantastic. Nice. Short and sweet. Thank you, Sam. Kayak, you want to say something in there?
Yeah, sure. So I think something else, I absolutely agree about the change management. I think it's imperative and it's definitely the right way to look at it. But what I also wanted to say is we make a lot of assumptions around change management. We make a lot of assumptions around who will adopt tech, who will leverage it most successfully. And a lot of that, for example, is ageism. And we had some very interesting data coming back. I was talking about our early learning program, and it has this digital component. And we obviously have a couple of focus groups and a couple of organizations we work with. And they were coming back and saying to us, the gorgors out there are so curious and so passionate and so eager to adopt the tech. And, like you think that's counterintuitive. But we must be very careful at how we look at our change management systems and the assumptions we make around tech adoption. So I just wanted to add that as a qualifier.
Fantastic. Ladies, we're almost reaching the end. I'm going to do one last round, and as we go around, I just want to get the audience to take out your phones. If you want to keep in touch with other events that are happening within the Lekker Network, you can just scan that QR code and follow the Lekker Network. You'll see a list of the events that we are running. But just to do one more round around the panel, what is next? I'm going to start with Lee. What is next for you, Lee?
I mean, next versus current, Sharell. So I think, something that we are really, really excited about and interested in at the moment is the interface between human and AI. And, if we kind of play this back, we've had years of defining UX patterns that everybody knows in apps today, the buttons, the navigation, to a point that you use previous examples because it's what people understand. We're now in this new world where there is this brand new layer of technology that is enabling a whole new layer of innovation that's coming through. And just about all of our projects that we work on have this new AI tool. And we're right on the cusp again of defining how we as users, as humans, are interacting with this new tech. And, every project pushes the envelope a little bit further every time. It doesn't all have to be chat-based. So yeah, that's a really, really exciting place and space for us.
Thanks, Lee, and thank you so much for being part of this conversation. Kayang?
I think I don't want to speak to what's next for me or for our organization. I think what I'd like to leave everyone with is the following. Education is good for business. That is the long and short of it. When you are educating people, you are creating discerning consumers. And that starts with children and it goes through to young adults. And that is something that we all need to be cognizant of so that we can all, as civil society, as companies, invest in education in South Africa and globally. In terms of what's next, it's just to keep building partnerships. None of us can do the good work that we do alone. So keep networking, keep building relationships, and keep having conversations like.
Stunning. Thank you, Kayang, and thank you for bringing us all together for this conversation. Melissa?
So what's next? I think, well, for the two parts or two hats that I wear. So for Hello Ada, it's really just building partnerships, building connections, getting into as many schools as possible, sharing the great platform that we're working on. And also I wanted to answer the bit about the psychology and the change management before, but it is very, very important. And I think with us, we also have that built in, and we've got a onboarding team and it's psych and all of that. It's really, really important to consider the human element because we are building for humans. So that is why it's always important to think human first. What's next for women in tech? Obviously, we've a growing network. We've got events coming up for Women's Month now in August. So we'll be in Johannesburg on the 7th of August and in Cape Town on the 20th of August, and also hosting our Africa Regional Awards in Mauritius on the 24th of September. I know you guys were in Mauritius recently, so with all of your events. So it really is if you want to find out more, just follow me on LinkedIn or follow Women in Tech on LinkedIn and our socials so that we can be included in some of the exciting networking opportunities where hopefully you can meet your future collaborator, business partner, funder, employer, who knows. So it's important to connect and network. So yeah, thank you for having me today.
Great. Thank you, Melissa. And in fact, we're back in Mauritius on the 18th of August. And just to pick back off of the events that you mentioned is happening in August, Led by Her is also doing a global connection across the month of August and flowing a little bit into September, where we're connecting women, South African women in 14 different countries. And yeah, I'll connect with you after this, Melissa, to get some of your women in tech to some of our events and cross pollinates and network, like you said, is very important. Then Sam, last but not least, what is next for you?
Thank you. Well, next for me is two key things. So I'm working on amazing projects in the US at the moment with companies that are very far ahead in their AI journey. So we're building like memory hubs and very in the trenches of the architect and the memory layers and getting it rolled out in that advanced space. But very, very close to my heart is also I'm working on a social project where we're bringing AI to the illiterate. So we've embarked on this through the DataSync Academy, and that's a lot of where my passion lies. So that's kicked off already, and it'll be a big focus for the rest of the year.
You are doing a lot. Congratulations on co-authoring, by the way. That's very exciting. Ladies, we have reached time. Apologies that we didn't reach all the questions and the comments, but the conversation like this goes on for long. There's just so much to speak about from so many different angles. For those that have joined us from home, thank you so much for joining the conversation, the ladies around the table. Thank you for all your insights. I just want our audience to know to please connect with the ladies on this panel. Through LinkedIn, you can continue the conversation, and any burning questions that you have or how you want to connect further, feel free to reach out to them on LinkedIn. They'd be happy to connect with you. So from the Lekker Network, right here from Mzansi to the world, have a good one further. Thank you, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.